Good morning. This is the Great Basin Fire potential briefing for Monday, July 6th, looking at above normal temperatures today through the week. In the short term, we have scattered high base thunderstorms in central and eastern areas Monday, Tuesday. That'll shift to eastern areas on Wednesday. Also, there'll be some marginally critical winds in some of those southern areas of Utah and Nevada to go along with that lightning. So it's a big concern. Our fire danger very high to extreme in the southern half of the area and drying very quickly up in the north. We'll look at those numbers in a second. But on the impact map for today, we do expect to see a bit more widespread thunderstorm activity. I shouldn't say widespread, but instead of almost nothing, we should see maybe 20 to 30% chances. The driest will be the ones in the furthest south and east. And there'll be some gradient winds of perhaps 25 to 30 miles an hour. You see the orange today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. That isolated to scattered thunderstorm activity starts shifting eastwards. And what starts building in the west is near record heat. Very hot, very dry western part of the Great Basin on Wednesday, and that starts overspreading eastern areas later in the week. Our satellite imagery does show some of that mid-level moisture that was a little piece of the monsoon that broke off. Not a full-fledged one, not a lot of moisture at the low levels. Could provide some shading in northern areas, but we'll have to watch out for the lightning. And we had quite a bit of lightning just outside our area. We did have high risk for lightning in far northwest Nevada. We just about dodged it by a stone's throw, quite a bit in southern adjacent areas of Oregon and northern California. A few isolated strikes up in Idaho. Fuels there still recovering from some of the big rains they got about a week ago. Speaking of precipitation a week ago, this is the past 7 days on the left, and you can see the past 10 days on the right, and you can see how much rain fell up in Idaho in those areas, 2 to 3 inches of rain in a lot of those areas. It is starting to wane. Some of this rain, about a half inch or so across far northern Nevada and southwest Idaho, that was more like 8 to 10 days ago. It's starting to wane as well. We are at PL4. We had some pretty moderate initial attack. A new large fire popped up in northwest Nevada. Our smoke, not as much wind as last week, so some of the smoke this afternoon and tomorrow will not have as much of a horizontal trajectory, but still very dry. Our ERC point map shows this 97th to 99th percentile in far southeast Utah. Everyone else here in the orange, 90th to 97th percentile, and starting to dry out quite a bit up in the north. And looking at a couple of PSAs, up in the Payette, far northwest, you can see that we're down here just below the 80th percentile, but projected to reach maybe the 88th percentile, toward just below the 90th by the weekend. Whereas, of course, down south in southeast Utah, maybe some of the humidity and showers knocking things down from the 99th percentile to maybe the 92nd, and then back up to the 99th percentile for the weekend. And we'll look at the large-scale weather patterns. Area in black here is that Goldilocks pattern where you just enough moisture to form some thunderstorms, but not enough to form widespread torrential downpours. Darker green area here. We have high risk for lightning in a lot of these areas, and mixed in with a little bit of wind on the backside. Similar story for tomorrow, but we do see drier air gradually pushing in. Some of that thunderstorm activity shifts eastwards, but we'll be stuck with some of these increasing winds in the south the next 3 days. We see those winds Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday down south. These darker colors up here in the in northern Utah, those are outflow boundaries from expected thunderstorms. We will see afternoon humidity creep up just a little bit because of the cloud cover. So instead of 7%, it might be 13 or 14%, still below that 15% critical threshold in the south. More in the 20s further north, but we will see that humidity start drying out significantly, especially western areas by Wednesday. Now, precipitation, we do expect to see scattered thunderstorms given by the precipitation here Monday, Tuesday, and shifting eastwards on Wednesday. And then going into Thursday, we have high pressure shifting westwards. When it does that, when it leaves the Four Corners and goes off the Southern California coast, we don't get as much of a monsoonal flow. We get stuck in that dry, hot air, and that's what we're expecting days 4, 5, and 6. Going into the weekend, most PSAs going to that moderate category. You can see the humidities here on the lower part of your screen. Everything in the single digits in the southern half of the region, and more like 10 to 15%, even some upper single digits in the north. Could be some breezes up in parts of Idaho into western Wyoming on Saturday as a front approaches from the north. I'll have to watch that as they are drying out very rapidly. No precipitation expected through there. Temperature change today, which is going to be hot, but you can see we're looking at a maybe 7 to 10 degree warm up from that by the time the weekend rolls around. So summing things up, our most critical days, probably the next 2 days with a combination of lightning and wind in some of our southern and eastern areas and lingering wind issues on Wednesday, and then just hot and dry as we go through the rest of the period. Now, the 6 to 10 day does show kind of a monsoonal flow coming in. I don't think it's going to be that much. It could actually trigger more lightning starts before it brings any good welcome relief. So we'll see how that plays out. Concludes our briefing. Have a great day.